Hello everyone. So today's topic is the concepts of culture. So let's get started. Before I start, I would like to give you an overview. So first of all, I'll be talking about what is culture, then definition, elements, aspects, characteristics, types, concepts, and lastly, the importance of culture in human life. So, do we interact and behave in our own ways without any regulations? No. In spite of the uniqueness of human personality, the behavior patterns are taught and guided only by the cultural norms, so that a certain conformity is maintained. Therefore, culture is an important social component. So, the word culture is derived from the Latin word that is called or cultus, meaning cultivating or refining. If I sum up, it means cultivating and refining a thing to such an extent that its end product evokes an admiration and respect. Then, culture is a way of life. Yes, the food we eat, the clothes we wear, the language we speak, and the God we worship all are aspects of culture. So, culture is manifest in two ways. One is ideal culture, and uh, another is the real culture. So, the first one is the ideal culture. What is ideal culture? Uh, the approved cultural patterns, practices, and beliefs that are strictly prescribed by the social life are included under the ideal culture. Then the other one is the real culture. The norms and values that people actually follow is known as the real culture. For example, cleanliness. As you know, cleanliness is one of the ideal cultural values. But in real, people continue to throw garbage in their surroundings. Then there are some of the definitions given by McIver and Page, Tyler and Malinowski. So according to McIver and Page, the culture is the realm of style, values, emotional attachments and intellectual adventures, and it is the entire social heritage. Then for Tyler, culture is the way of life shared by a group of people, and it includes the knowledge, beliefs, values, rules or laws, language, customs, symbols, and material product within a society that help meeting human needs. So for Malinowski, culture is the cumulative creation of man. Then move to the next one, that is the elements. So cultural elements are shared by members of society, and it actually facilitates the cooperation and communication between the members. So the first element is the cultural norms. Cultural norms refers to the standard pattern of a behavior that is accepted by the society. For example, leaving the footwear outside the temple among Hindus, women covering the head in church, and the seating posture of Muslims in the mosque explain how culture expects its people to behave in a particular fashion under a particular condition. Then cultural values. What is considered as good, proper, and desirable, or bad, improper, and undesirable in a culture can be called as cultural values. Then I'll explain the aspects of culture. So there are two aspects, material culture and non-material culture. So what is material culture? It includes all those artifacts or things that have been created by man himself for his use. Example, house, furniture, vehicles, all are physical things, all the tangible things, and it is that aspect that can be seen, touched and observed. Then another aspect is the non-material culture. It includes all the intangible and abstract objects like language, literature, art, morality, etc. These are the some of the aspects of culture. Then move to the characteristics. So there are so many characteristics of culture. One is culture is shared. It is transmitted from generation to generation. Then culture is social. Culture is learned, and it varies from society to society. Then culture is gratifying. Culture is cumulative and dynamic. Culture is integrated. So let's discuss it one by one. The first one is culture is learned. See, men are socialized in a cultural environment, and culture is handed over from one generation to another, and thus the tradition is preserved. Once born into a society, the individual learns its cultural norms, and it is the learned way of behavior, and this process is called by anthropologists as enculturation. So, for example, a child is learning to eat with hands or with spoons or with chopsticks, have their own roots in the culture. And the second feature is culture is social. So, actually, culture is a product of society, and it originates and is developed within the social context. For example, in wedding parties, we are expected to behave in a particular fashion at one point at different rituals of the wedding. But at one point we are very informal, we celebrate it by dancing and singing. But on the other hand, other rituals we have to be very serene, chanting mantras. So all these behaviors are taught to us by our cultural values. Thirdly, culture is transmitted from one generation to another. The societies are stable because the culture of each society is being transmitted from one generation to the next. The family and other social institutions passed the culturally prescribed traits to the growing children. So the transmission of culture takes place by instructions from elders and also by the imitation of the child. For example, as you can see, the child is keenly watching her sisters and learning how to dress up. Then the fourth one is that culture is shared. The main function of culture is to make all the members in a society to share certain behaviors and norms, so that the social life is acceptable by each other. In this way, the cultural qualities and beliefs are shared by the members of that particular society. Fifthly, culture is integrated. Actually, culture consists of many elements within itself, and in the process of adaptation, all the elements of culture tend to form a consistent and integrated whole. Then culture is the cumulative and dynamic. So, culture exists in all periods. It is being handed over from one generation to the generation, as I said earlier. But this doesn't mean that culture is static and stable without any alterations. When culture is transmitted through generations to generation, it grows with new elements being added to the new situations. Many elements of culture get modified gradually when there is a need, and new items are also included to the existing culture. In this way, we can say culture is cumulative. For example, we can take the example of column. So, in this like traditional practice of column finds a new dimension in Rangoli in the modern age. Then using modern technology to cook and also new form of Indian fast food that have become part of Indian culture now. So we can say culture is also responsive to the changing conditions, and hence it is dynamic and adaptive. So the next one is culture is gratifying. Culture provides guidelines to its people, like how one is to perform a role, what should be the appropriate cultural goal, and what morality to adapt are prescribed by the culture. Then culture varies from society to society. Every society differs in its cultural tradition depending on historical and geographic background. The philosophy, practices, dressing pattern, food habits, everything different from one society to another. For example, the dressing pattern, and it varies from Indian society to Western. Not only dressing pattern but also food, greetings, everything we can say it differ from one society to another in the same time. Then types of culture. So there are high culture, low culture, popular culture, folk culture, and let's discuss it one by one. What is high culture? As you can see in this picture, that it refers to the elite and well educated people. And what is low culture? It is the opposite of high culture, and it refers to the less well educated people or the masses. So then the popular culture, it refers to the behaviors and the ideas that are popular with most people in a society and is popular culture. So then folk culture, it refers to a culture traditionally practiced by a small rural group in a relative isolation from other group. So these are the types. Then move to the concepts of culture. The most important thing is the concepts. Like there are two important concepts, cultural lag and cultural relativism. So what is cultural lag? Yeah, as we know, there are two aspects of culture. One is material, another is non-material. And the material aspects of culture are likely to change very faster. So the scientific and technological inventions results in change in material culture, like building, house, automobiles, transportations, vehicles, and also it is accepted by people very easily. On the other hand, the non-material culture is very slow in changing itself. As a result of this difference in the pace of change, there is a lag between these two aspects of culture, and this is called cultural lag. So move to the next concept, that is cultural relativism. A cultural relativism is that view that all beliefs, customs, and ethics are relative to the individual within his own society context. What is considered moral in one society may not be considered moral in another, and no one has the right to judge other societies' culture. In other words, the ability to understand a culture on its own terms and not to make judgments using the standard of one's own culture is known as the cultural relativism. So lastly, I want to say the importance of culture in human life. So culture is closely linked with human's life, and it is not an add-on or an ornament that we as human beings can use. It gives us meaning, a way of leading our lives, and human beings are creators of cultures, and at the same time, culture is what makes us human. The three eternal and universal values of truth, beauty, and goodness are closely linked with culture. And the culture makes us ethical beings by bringing us closer to other human beings and teaching us the values of love, tolerance, and peace. Thank you. That's all about the culture.